It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. Welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm, of course, your host, Brian Beatty. And if this is your first time tuning into this program, this is where we talk about housing. We talk about the real estate market, my experience within it as somebody that's been selling real estate for going on my 15th year now. We've sold well over 1,000 properties here in the Charleston area. And so I hope you better understand what's happening in the marketplace. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, what does it look like out there? What are the trends that we need to be aware of, and how has the process changed over time that impacts you? So that when it comes time for you to buy, sell, or invest, you're an informed consumer. That's what this show is all about. So this will be fun. I'm live in the studio today, so I want to take your calls, listen to what you guys have on your mind. Provide some value there. So the number here in the studio is 843-556-1250. 843-556-1250. Now, if you're thinking about buying or selling a house and you want to have a private conversation with me, the number to call is 843-400-8009. That's my direct line. Doesn't have anything to do with this show. We can have a personal conversation about your interest in buying, selling, or invest in real estate. 843-400-8009 is that phone number. And, of course, you can find out more about my real estate team by going to listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. So, busy past 2 weeks in our market, especially for our team. It's amazing to me the amount of people that are ready, willing, and able to buy that just simply can't right now because there's not enough properties available for sale. It is really becoming a challenge for us. We have... we've talked on this program about some of the things that we're doing from a marketing perspective and how much that's changed over the past year and a half for us. Not that we were being lackadaisical with our marketing before that. I've always believed that we've been a leader in this market as it relates to marketing practices and ways in which we target people to find buyers for our listings and vice versa, find listings for our buyers. But we now have so many people that are saying the same thing that it develops into this trend where they would move. They would sell their house and they would buy another, but they just can't find anything worthwhile to get excited about going to see. So they just don't. They just stay and they either refinance and renovate, or they just kind of kick the can down the road a little while and say, all right, well, let's hope that spring or summer brings some new inventory to the market, which of course it will. But the amount of people that are out there right now that want to buy something is more than I have seen in since I can recall, quite frankly. And so what's driving that? What are some of the reasons why people are so, anxious to move? And one of those reasons is the fact that interest rates are incredibly low. I mean, they're the lowest they've been in 3 years. We were not anticipating being in this position this time this year, by the way. In fact, it was the kind of the forecast for the end of 2018 that in 2019 interest rates would go up, that we'd be, could be close to 5%. And that was certainly not the case. They actually went in the opposite direction. So you have access to really affordable money. Mortgage rates are just incredibly low. And so I think there's this concern among buyers that, and we're starting to hear this too, that I'm not really going to do anything right now. We're just going to kind of wait and see. Or, you always get, once every 4 years, you always get we're going to see what happens with the election, as if that's going to make some sort of massive change to their plan or the market. Because real estate's a lagging indicator. Nothing really happens that quickly in the real estate world. But for the people that are saying, we're going to wait, we're going to kind of see what happens here with prices, you kind of have to think about this. What's the alternative? What are you going to do while you wait? If you're renting and you're waiting to buy and you have the ability to buy right now and you're going to be staying in that home for several years, I think you need to move forward and buy something, because if you're going to rent is not cheap in this area. My God. I mean, I was looking at some properties to help somebody rent out, it's tough to get something that's a 3-bed, 2-bath house that, is in good condition for $1,800 a month. It's a lot of moolah for rent. So let's say that, somebody moves to, let's say, Mount Pleasant, whatever the case might be, and people are saying, oh, well, Mount Pleasant's overpriced right now. I think prices are going to come down a little bit. We hear that quite a bit. So we're going to go and we're going to rent a place. Let's say they rent something for $2,000 a month, and they get stuck in that lease for a year. Well, that's almost $25,000. 2 years, that's $50,000. Is it realistic to assume that prices are going to come down, or that they're going to lose $25,000 to $50,000 on that property? I think not. The real challenge right now is, of course, finding the inventory. And so we, on our team, our real estate team, it is a full court press right now to try and find people that want to sell their house. I mean, and some of these buyers, Mike, they're willing to pay top dollar for the house before they see it. There are some that are saying, we want your home to be in better condition, and there are some more homes for us to look at in this area. Or we could go and we could buy new construction for slightly more and not have to deal with any of this. But there are plenty of people that are okay with paying a premium to have the work done so that they can just move into the property. Now, on the flip side of that, and we had a great meeting a few days ago with a new client, and I think a lot of people are in this position too. They want to sell, but they're just unsure as to how far they should take the renovations and repairs before they put it on the market. And so I've said this countless times on this program. And by the way, we're live, so the number here is 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250 if you want to be on the program and have a chat with me or ask me some questions, get my insight. Sorry, here. Forgot to put the phone on silent. Amateur move. Anyways, number here is 843-556-1250. So we were meeting with the new client. We were going through the process of, what do we do to prepare this property for sale? And I tell you what, we're going to take a pause on that because we've got Derek on the line. Derek, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Derek, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How can we help?
Oh, nothing. Just figured that you and I had chatted a little earlier today. I figured I'd call and kind of give some perspective on where rates are and where they're going.
I'd really appreciate that because a lot of people are, like we've been saying, they want to make a move. They're struggling to find the inventory, and interest rates are what, at a 3-year low right now?
Since actually about as low or just slightly lower than the last election year we had. So roughly 4-year lows.
Wow.
I mean, we're seeing people getting 30-year fixed money, 3.375 to 3.65, depending on credit scores, et cetera, down payment. I mean, obviously everyone's situation is a little differently, so I'm kind of giving a little bit of a range. And then we're seeing 15-year money in the high twos. So,
wow.
When people look back at this, they'll kind of go, wow, this was one of the last great opportunities for really, really low money.
It really is incredible how inexpensive that money is. So, I want to mention something, Derek, and I'm sure you probably saw this, but last week there was an article that came out about the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, making a move to remove the debt-to-income ratio as a requirement that was put into place, after the market crash of 2008. Can you shed some light on that? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's easy to talk too deep about this, so I'll try to keep it at a little bit of the surface level so people understand. What it means for the general consumer is that the CFPB had rules in place that said you can't spend more than 43% of your overall earnings on a house and all your debts combined. And what they're moving to eliminate is that 43% cap and make it so that people can stretch their budget a little bit further to maybe make their next purchase before they make before they sell their current existing home. So it's bridging a gap and allowing people with today's very, very inexpensive money to buy more house, essentially.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I always looked at the debt to income ratio as, it kind of depends. The application of it kind of depends. If you're bringing in $5,000 a month and you've got a 43% debt to income ratio, that's going to look a lot different than if you're bringing in $10,000 a month. You have a lot more cash left over at $10,000 a month. So any concern about this kind of opening the floodgate for, unscrupulous lending practices and, kind of a return to what we saw in the events leading up to 2008?
No, because what I would say is that there's going to be rules around what constitutes going over these magic figures, and reserves is going to be one of those things. Free cash flow is going to be one of those things. Because like you said, somebody who's bringing in $5,000 a month, spending 43%, they've got a lot less left over at the end of the day than somebody who's bringing in $10,000 a month, spending 43%. And so free cash flow is going to play into this, and equity. They're not going to be doing these at 5% down at a 70% debt to income ratio. And so the safeguards are still going to be in place to protect, A, the homeowner, and B, the market from any catastrophic failures that were there before. I mean, before, what we had was, somebody who made no money, who on paper, a loan officer said they made $25,000 a month and they had 17 mortgages. There's rules in place to prevent things like that, even if they eliminate a true debt to income ratio requirement.
Very good. Derek, I really appreciate the information this morning. Thanks for calling in. This is Derek Goulette with Fairway Independent Mortgage. For those of you that don't know, I don't think you introduced yourself, Derek, but thanks for calling in, man. Always great having you on the show.
Thank you. Have a great day. Let me know if you have any questions.
All right, will do. And Robert, I know that you're on the line as well and you're waiting patiently. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about more of this real estate market and the ebbs and flows, and we're going to talk with Robert as well. The number here in the studio, 843-556-1250 to be on the show. And this is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Hear the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 9 and each Sunday morning at 10 on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
1250 WTMA.
Expert news and views on the Low Country real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. We're live in the studio today taking your calls, answering questions about your thoughts, concerns, questions about real estate. The number here is 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. Now, if you want to reach out to me personally to talk about your interest in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, the number to call, my direct line, is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or you can visit us online, listingsincharleston.com. So I want to get to James, who's been waiting patiently. James, are you there this morning?
Are you talking to me? This is Robert.
I'm sorry. Robert in James Island. I read the screen wrong. Robert, how are you this morning?
Fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How can I help you?
Well, I'm about to go into business and on a 1099 relationship, and I'm going to be very busy with that. So I really won't have time for all the ins and outs of real estate, but I'd sure like to take advantage of the tax sheltering, also the growth of capital, and all the other advantages that are involved with real estate. And I was just thinking, can you give us some ideas about how I could do that without having to be too directly involved, maybe through some kind of a real estate investment trust that maybe operates on a local basis, so that you could go to an occasional meeting and understand how it all works and what they're doing and all that and that kind of thing. Do you think that's a good idea?
So, a real estate investment trust obviously is a company or an entity that owns and operates and finances, income producing property in which you can purchase a share within that company that, you essentially invest in their portfolios and get a portion of their, income producing properties and that cash flow. As far as getting kind of in bed with a bunch of local investors that own properties collectively, for me, I would never do it. I'm in real estate. I go and I find and source and invest in my own deals. But for somebody that doesn't want to be that involved, I think my answer to you would be, when you partner with a really good real estate agent, they're going to do the legwork for you. All we need to do is better understand your investment criteria. What would cause you to say, yes, I want to invest in this property or not. And then we go out and we source the deals, and then you just kind of write the check and let us take the ball and run with it.
Well, I'd be having money coming in every month, and I'd like to invest that. So is there a way in which I could invest that kind of income that comes in regularly every month, putting a little bit into a good part of it into real estate every month? Is that a possibility somehow?
You could, yeah. And again, there's so many different ways to skin this cat. I'll tell you what some of our investor clients are doing right now is that several of them have created joint ventures where we'll have a contractor / builder and then someone that just finances the deals hire us. We go out, we find them, we run the numbers, we make sure that obviously what we buy we can sell or rent at the appropriate return on investment. And they want to do, we could probably do 20 deals a month right now. If we could find enough properties to invest in. That's really the big challenge. So it does take a lot of time, and I guess to answer your question more directly, Robert, are there enough opportunities in this market right now in Charleston for you to invest on a monthly basis? Yes, but it does take a lot of time. Going for something like a REIT, quite frankly, I've never owned one. I can't speak with authority on them. That'd be a question for someone else that I'd be happy to put you in touch with. That's just not my wheelhouse.
Okay, sir. Well, I do thank you very much for that explanation.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for calling in.
You're welcome, Mr. Beatty. Bye-bye, sir.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, let's go to Bob. Bob, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. I have a friend in Mount Pleasant that's going to list their house and go to Florida. He's going to sell it on his own. He told me this week, valuing it about $500, he'll take $490. Very excited about putting $30,000 commission in his pocket. But I asked him this question. He's never done it before. I said, are there any risks in doing this other than undervaluing the house, selling it for too little? He said, no, he's got it valued correctly. And I said, well, are there any big dangers when you do sell a house, like getting sued, or can you get into big trouble, or are the risks very small? I didn't really get a clear answer from him. It was just that he's so enamored with getting the money in his pocket that that's an obscene amount to pay a realtor, $30,000 to sell his house. He was willing to take a certain amount of risk. So are the risks low, or are there great risks involved? He's going to have an attorney guiding through the closing process, and I'll listen to your answer.
Sure. Well, that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking. So, I think the first thing that popped into my mind as you were explaining that is he's going to sell his home himself and then move to Florida. Is he actually going to be here to sell his own house, or is he moving down to Florida regardless? You got to be here to sell your own house is I think the point there. But, I guess more importantly, what are the risks involved? Well, certainly, yes, undervaluing the property is a big risk. We routinely talk to FSBO owners that are not priced correctly. More often than not, though, they're overpriced. They think their home is worth more than, the next guy, Bob and Judy down the street. So aside from just not knowing how to value properties properly, there's a lot that goes into the process in the form of disclosures that can get you into serious trouble. One of the questions that I always ask a for sale by owner is, can you send me a copy of your property condition disclosure statement? What? And so that to me right there is just a perfect example. Anytime you sell a property in South Carolina, you're obligated legally to fill out something called a property condition disclosure statement, which details everything that's right and wrong with the house. And if you don't fill that out, then you can get in big trouble. There are so many other little things here that I could mention contractually that you just don't know because you've not been through the process several times. But I think the reality is you have to think about the buyers that look at for sale by owners. So you've got people that are already working with a real estate agent. That real estate agent is going to expect to be paid 3%. If they're not being paid 3% by the for sale by owner, and the buyer has to pay the commission to the buyer agent, which is an extreme rarity, then that buyer is going to have to buy that property for such a low price that makes sense. And if you're negotiating that far below the asking price or fair market value, then what's the point in selling on your own at all? You're not saving any money. And I think a lot of buyers have wisened up to the fact that, real estate is inflated by 6%. So if you're for sale by owner and you're trying to sell for the same price as everybody else, they know you're pocketing at least 3% more, sometimes 6% more. So a lot of them are just going to take that price off the top because that's an expense you don't have to incur. They're in, not having saved any money because they're just going to take that right off the purchase price. And then, of course, you have all the investors and then the tire kickers. Probably the biggest frustration in selling for sale by owner is that, people are going to tell you what you want to hear in order to get through the front door, whether it's a buyer that's kicking tires or an investor that, wants to get in and get in front of you and face-to-face and learn more about your situation and kind of, steal this information from you through creative questioning so that they can cater an offer based on your motivation. And then you've got all these real estate agents that are saying, oh, yeah, well, I got a buyer. When can I come by? And they don't have a buyer. They just want to list your house, and they're using that as a foot in the door technique. So a lot of time can be wasted for sale by owner. It certainly can. But there are so few listings in this market that if there's a time to try it, it's probably now. And that's just the truth. There's just hardly anything available for sale out there in some of these neighborhoods. So, Mount Pleasant, $500,000, he shouldn't have an issue, but if he does, it's because he's priced it incorrectly or he's not marketing it correctly. I could have the best priced home in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then I'm not going to sell it. So I hope that answers the question. That's a great topic, though, for sale by owners because it's, again, inventory is so low in this market right now that it kind of makes sense. And so we have a for sale by owner program on my team. We will give you all these tools to sell your home yourself. We can do it for as little as 1% commission. In fact, you could hire us, and if you sell your home on your own, then you can choose not to pay us anything. But we have a variety of options for people that want to sell their home, that want to be creative with commission. Or we, have people that will buy the house right now without having to go through that entire process. So if you'd like more information on that, my number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. That's my personal line. Or you can go to our website, listingsincharleston.com. I believe we have some information on there as well, listingsincharleston.com. And remember, we're live in the studio, about 30 minutes left on the show. So if you'd like to call in and ask a question, the number here is 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. Stick around for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Thanks again for listening this morning. If you have a question, if you'd like to talk about real estate, ever had a curiosity about any topic real estate related whatsoever, feel free to call into the studio this morning. We're live and we're taking your calls. The number here is 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. Now, if you want to speak with me personally and privately about your interest in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, maybe you just have a real estate question that I can answer and you just don't want to be on air, I respect that. My personal number is 843-400-8009, 843-400-8009, or visit our website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com for more information on myself and my team and who we are, what we do, what we sell, how we sell it. Search the MLS. Find out how much your home is worth. Listen to, every version of the show. I think we've been doing this about 7 years now. That's crazy. That's awesome. Never a dull week either. Always something to talk about with regard to real estate, but maybe that's because it's just my passion. But I want to talk now about preparing your house to sell here in the next few months. As we've been talking this morning, there are a huge number of buyers that are just kind of waiting on the sidelines. They want to buy something right now. They just don't see the inventory. So they're being forced to wait. And what will likely happen is that all these people that start to see new inventory hit the market in the spring will create more inventory because they'll have homes that they need to sell in order to buy. So we've got two things that I want to chat about toward the tail end of this program, and that is first preparing your home to sell here in the next few months, and then the process of selling one home and buying another. It's just, when you have environments with very low inventory, you're going to see more home sale contingencies. So let's just talk about this process of preparing a home for sale, because that's really where, if done correctly and done with enough time, this is how you sell your home for the most money possible. People always, that's what, everybody wants to sell it for as much as they can in as reasonable or appropriate an amount of time as possible. And I think that's the key word right there, is an appropriate amount of time. Not everybody wants to sell their house in a week. Some people are okay with waiting a little longer to get a little bit more for their house. And of course, it all, is a function of the strategy that we employ as it relates to your goals as a seller. So when we get calls from folks that say, hey, we're ready to list our house, of course, we can go as quickly as people want. The only thing that trips us up is the professional photography, which takes about 2 days, sometimes 3 days. But outside of that, we can have a home on the market in 2-3 days. But we don't like take photos with our phone or bring our own camera, because you have to set the right impression when it goes on the market. I see so many listings that don't have professional photography, that look rushed, that have spelling errors, and it just looks unprofessional and it looks unattractive. You don't want your buyers to see that as being the first thing they see when your property goes on the market. Give yourself just an extra day or two and do it right. But when we get calls from sellers, here's really what I prefer. Here's what I would suggest. When you start thinking about selling your house, call the real estate agent and have a discussion after they walk through the house about what you should fix up, what you should not fix up, what you can do yourself, what you should hire out. And, if you decide to hire that real estate agent, I'm going to take this one step further, get a pre-listing home inspection. We offer that to our sellers. We bear the expense of that, because we want to understand what are the challenges that are going to be ahead of us that we can't see. What are some of these hurdles to the sale that we need to identify now so that we can properly, shop the best contractor to repair those items. That's always one of the challenges when you're selling a property, is the disagreement between the buyer and seller about how much something should cost to repair. Don't give the buyer the option, just get ahead of it and understand how much something like that is going to cost. There's contractors are busy. And this is, part of the reason why I suggest giving some extra time to the process, because contractors are locked up for weeks. So, the majority of the people that we work with, and we're having to find new contractors, new tradesmen, new vendors, because they're all, they're tied up until middle of March, and that doesn't help us. So here's an opportunity for anybody that's listening. If you have a business and you're awesome, give me a call. We want to talk with you. There might be an opportunity for us to, partner here and help you and help us in the process. My number is 843-400-8009. 843-400-8009. If you have somebody that you really like and trust, that you want to see their business grow, or if you yourself have a business and you guys do a great job, and of course, we'll take you through the vetting process. We're not going to recommend you to anybody before we've had an opportunity to do that. But my number again, 843-400-8009. So we go through the house. Getting back on track here, we go through the house. We walk through it. We determine what we should do to the house, what we should not do, what's going to be a waste of money, what's not going to result in a return on investment, and is just going to be an exercise in futility. We get our pre-listing home inspection done. We have a professional designer and decorator come through so that we can really make the place look fantastic for photography. And while all of this is happening, behind the scenes, we are doing what we call pre-marketing. So we're reaching out to our database of buyers that have expressed an interest because, as I mentioned, there are all these buyers that are out there kind of watching the market like a hawk, waiting to swoop in when the right property hits the market. So if we can be of value to those buyers and say, hey, this home isn't on the market yet, but it's about to be. If you're interested, you've got first shot at it. Buyers love that. People want what they can't have, right? So when we put a sign in the yard and they go and they try and research information on it, and they can't find very much, which of course we do on purpose because we want to generate a phone call and have a discussion with them and sell them. That's what we've been hired to do. Let's not sugarcoat it. I'm a salesperson to everybody else and a consultant to my client. So when they call in and they can't find a lot of information, it just gives us an opportunity to have a conversation with them, talk more about the property. And if they're really interested, then yeah, we'll let them in and we'll potentially sell it before it even hits the market, given the understanding that if that buyer is truly that serious, then the offer that they make has to be an incredibly good one because that buyer is asking our seller to accept their offer without the ability to market it to anybody else first. They're asking them to take a chance on this particular buyer rather than introducing the property to the world to see if anybody else wants to pay more, which I think is fair and works very well for our clients. And we sell a good amount of properties off market before anybody else even has a chance to see it. So that's part of the benefit in communicating with my team or just a large real estate team is that they always have new people and new deals coming in. And so if you're a seller and you're thinking about selling your house, I'd have to look at the number of buyer agency agreements we have on my real estate team right now, but I want to say it's somewhere around 80 ready, willing, and able buyers in various locations and price ranges that will make an offer on the right house today. And it's probably double or triple that. They just haven't committed to us, on paper, but I'm sure there are hundreds of people. We get probably about 1,000 people every month on our website looking at properties. It's just a massive amount of lookers right now, and they can't find what they're looking for. So the best way to bridge that gap is through something called shadow inventory. Talking to a seller and saying, if we were to bring you a buyer, would you entertain selling your house? And if so, at what price? So we call that a pocket listing. And so if a buyer communicates with our team and they say, hey, what do you have that's not available right now? And they agree to work with us because we don't share those opportunities with just, Johnny from the street. If they agree to work with us, then we'll show them all these other homes that no one else has access to. And that's one of the benefits of working with a really big real estate team. So if you'd like more information on that, if you're thinking about buying right now and you're just not really seeing what anything of interest, or if you want to sell and you want access to all these buyers that are ready, willing, and able, they just haven't found what they're looking for yet, then give me a call. My number is 843-400-8009. Again, that's 843-400-8009. 8009, or visit us online at listingsincharleston.com. That's www.listingsincharleston.com. Now, when we come back, I want to talk about the process of selling your home and buying another, because I think a lot of people are going to be going through that here in the next few months. And so I want to make sure you really understand the process and how we protect people to ensure they are not homeless or end up owning two homes by accident. Never a good idea. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA.
1250 WTMA.
You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, folks, to the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I am Brian Beatty, and we've really bounced around here this morning and talked about a bunch of different topics. And what I really want to focus on here in the last few minutes is the process of selling a home and buying another. And in reality, 10 minutes doesn't really do this process enough justice. It's not enough time. When we consult with people, we really sit down and have a discussion about what they're interested in moving into, what would get them excited about the move, how we protect them contractually and financially so that they don't end up buying two homes or owning two homes at the same time, or selling one but not having the other one. And there are ways that you can do it so that the clients are protected. We have never, ever, and I'm very proud to say this, we have never, ever made one of our clients homeless. We have always been able to successfully transition them from one home to another with ease. Not every contract and not every deal is an easy one, of course, and it seems like the more agents that enter our market and the less listings there are to purchase, the more challenging some of these deals become. But that's just kind of the nature of the beast. There are a lot of people in our market right now that just frankly aren't that experienced. There's no other way of putting it. And so when you work with an experienced real estate agent, of course, that's what protects you and helps with making that transition smooth and successful. But let's just kind of talk through the process, or at least the process that I take my clients through when they say, yes, we'd like to buy something, but we need to sell our house first. So really the first thing we do is we just set up a time and we sit down, and I want to first really understand what they want to move into. And we will ask a series of questions about, the area and the house itself and, their lifestyle. And, if they're not intimately familiar with where they already want to go, then we need to really understand, how they live in their house, what they do on the weekends, how far away do they want to be from work? What do those drive times look like? So it's a very detailed conversation about what we're going to be looking at. Some of these homes that they're going to go and view with one of my buyer agents. And then, of course, I'm going to walk through the house and we're going to understand what it's worth. We need to better understand the current fair market value for that property and how long it's going to take to sell so that they understand how much equity they have, which they can then apply to the purchase of a new property. And as I was saying a little earlier, we, of course, are going to, if let's say they hire us and they say, okay, we want to move forward with this process, and then, we get a pre-listing home inspection. After we look at that together, then we determine what we want to repair or fix. And then we shop that around with contractors so that we get the best price on that. We certainly don't ever want to be, kind of held captive by another agent or a buyer's contractor, because that they're gonna get what they want to get. They're not going to do the seller any favors as it relates to pricing. So we maybe make some of those repairs, whether it's through a contractor or it's through the seller themselves. While we're waiting on all of this stuff to kind of come to fruition and get settled, we're marketing the property behind the scenes, and we're also having the buyer look at properties to see if there's anything out there that is going to really excite them. And so let's just say that while we're preparing the home for sale, we're doing our pre-marketing and they're out there looking at properties. They find something they really like and they want to make an offer on it. Well, you're going to make an offer contingent upon that home that they already own going under contract and selling. So if they can't sell their house, they can't buy the other, which is very common in this market to see the home sale contingency in a real estate contract. People that just need to sell first before they buy. And what's been interesting, this kind of market over the past year or so, is that typically people aren't really having a problem with selling their home in order to buy another. The challenge that we've had in the past is that, if you take a contract that has a home sale contingency on it, how long realistically is that seller going to be expected to wait for the buyer to sell their own house? If the seller's been on the market for, let's say, 4 or 5 months, and they thought they were going to sell in 30 days, and they're frustrated with the process, and they get this offer, which is likely the only buyer that's interested at the moment, they're likely thinking in the back of their minds, well, if it took me 4 or 5 months to get a buyer for my house, and I thought that I was priced correctly, and we thought this was only going to take 30 days, how long am I expected to wait for this person now put their home on the market and find a buyer? And so here's what's really important is that as somebody that represents clients that go through this all the time, one of the great things about real estate is that you can add just about whatever you want to a real estate contract so long as both parties agree. So I've gotten very creative in the past, and some things that I add to these deals that just make sense that I don't see very often from other agents are as follows. The most common, which is in almost all of these types of contracts, is something called a kick-out clause. So let's say that you're a buyer and you have to sell your home in order to buy a house, but you see something you really like, you make an offer, it's contingent upon your home selling. The seller accepts it, but they add language to it that includes a kick-out clause, which very simply means that, hey, I'm going to take your deal and I will wait X amount of days or weeks or months for you to sell your house. However, if somebody else comes along and they want to make an offer and they don't have to sell their house, I'm going to reserve the right to take that offer and kick you out. That clause also contains language that says, hey, well, wait a minute. Yes, I want to sell my house first, but if you receive another offer and they don't have to sell their house, I want 48 hours or I want 72 hours to decide what I want to do before you kick me to the curb. There are buyers that say, hey, I want to sell my house first, but then when push comes to shove and somebody else wants to buy the house that they want to buy and already have a contract on, they'll say, you know what, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to move forward with buying this house, and I trust that my agent is going to sell my house quickly and that I'm not going to be stuck owning two homes for more than a month or two. That is a little rarer than than obviously just the standard kick-out clause and somebody comes in that doesn't have a home to sell, that makes an offer and kicks the buyer out of the process. Most people aren't willing to inherit that level of risk. Most people can't financially afford to own two homes at the same time. And so we've been looking for solutions to this challenge that people have of, I see a house that I like, I want to make an offer, but because there are so few homes available for sale, how realistic is it that the seller is even going to take my offer contingent upon me selling my home first? Are they going to want to wait around that long, or because they know that they're one of just a few homes available in that neighborhood, are they even going to give us the time of day? And so one thing that we do and add to these contracts that really helps when we're representing a buyer is we'll say, hey, look, yes, we have to sell our house, but here's what we're willing to do. This is and the more information that you give these folks, the better, because that's really what helps kind of push things forward. You can say things like, okay, here's how much we're going to list this house for. Here's the analysis that my real estate agent did to determine how much it's worth. So this is what we think it's worth. Let's say, just pick a number, $300,000. We're going to list it for $295,000. That should generate multiple offers. But if it doesn't generate an offer within the first 15 days, then we're going to go down to $289,900. I'm just pulling numbers out of the air here, but you kind of get the gist. We are telling the seller, hey, we are committed to selling this property. We're going to make price reductions, and if we don't put our home under contract within, say, 30 days, then you have the right to cancel this agreement. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can play these contracts up to cater to that specific seller's needs. Maybe the person that's selling their house that you want to buy and you need to sell your home first, maybe they need to go and find something else, and they appreciate the amount of time that you're going to give them to go and find a replacement property. Or if you're one of those folks that wants to sell and buy another and you haven't found what you're looking for yet somebody comes along and they say, hey, I'm going to pay you full price cash. Sometimes it just makes sense to take the money and run to the bank and go rent a place for a few months. Go find a beach rental. Go, in the off season, go, find a 6-month rental, pocket the cash and wait to find the right house. Bunch of different ways you can play it. But as it relates to home sale contingencies, if you're thinking about selling your home and buying another, I will tell you that if you use my real estate team, we will pay your moving expenses. In addition to the free pre-listing home inspection and the staging consultation and everything else that we do to market our properties for sale. So if you'd like more information on that, the number to call is 843-400-8009. That's my personal line, 843-400-8009. Or go to our website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Thanks so much for listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And again, if you have any questions for me, maybe you just want some real estate information, the number 843-400-8009 or listingsincharleston.com. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl.